He'll begin to control the financial means of the world, and then that will really start to change everything in a rapid way.
All the AI infrastructure assets on-chain and then build an economy around it.
The cost of capital in this industry is just probably the lowest of all industries.
Welcome, guys. How are you doing? Today we've got GAIB, we've got RedStone, and we got Plume. So yeah, pretty excited to have you all for this RWA panel in Real World Value, the podcast where we discuss the future of real world assets and consumer-facing applications. So like always, let's do a quick round of intros. Should we start with RedStone?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Matt here, head of BD for RedStone. RedStone is an Oracle provider, and we specialize in yield-bearing collateral for lending markets. And oftentimes these days, this comes in the form of tokenized assets or assets that would have normally lived off-chain, but now they are tokenized and we can use them in DeFi. So that's what we specialize in.
And you guys are pretty much the fastest growing Oracle in this year, aren't you?
Yes, define the period, and they probably are. So that's what we like to say about ourselves. Yes.
Beautiful. Want to go next, man?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Chris. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Plume. We build a network, a chain, and infrastructure, an ecosystem that is around RWAs. We make it easy to access the real world on chain, right? So we sort of combine many things together. We've got a tokenization engine, a customized EVM chain. We have the biggest liquidity provider network, a community, the largest community around RWAs, over 200,000 RWA holders, which is larger than the other top 10 chains combined, and then over 200 ecosystem projects building on us today, right? So the idea is very simple, right? We make it easy to bring real things, right? It could be anything, whether it's Pokemon cards, collectibles, durians, camels, or whatever. On the other side, we also have some of the biggest funds in the world. Apollo's private credit fund just did their biggest deployment ever, right, on us. And so $50 million from Apollo. We've got BlackRock products, Blackstone. We've got Invesco, all those types of things on Plume as well, right? And so it makes it very easy to one-click access any of these things. Not only buy them, but then also put them into our RWA ecosystem, right? And so what this means is you can put it into Morpho, which is a deployment on Plume. You can lend against this stuff. We're the only ecosystem that has any RWA lending against it today. Everyone else is full of shit and they don't have any, right? And so today, we're the largest one that does that today. And so that's the focus for us.
Great. And Connie, last but not least.
Yeah, so GAIB is building the tokenized GPU and robotics infrastructure, where we have, the first product we have is called AI Synthetic Dollar, AID, which is a synthetic dollar that's backed by the actual real world yield from the robotics asset and also compute assets. We're with like Plume, we work with RedStone, because these are like big ecosystem that we want to work together to bring really real assets from the real world to on-chain. Because right now, if you want to invest into AI, there's nothing you can do it. The only way you can do is indirectly by buying NVIDIA stock. That's it. But what we want to do is to bring all the AI infrastructure assets on-chain and then build an economy around it. Same thing happened to gold, happened to oil, happened to even orange markets. So that's our vision. We want anybody to invest into AI going forward, and we bring these assets on-chain.
Beautiful. So yeah, actually, you guys helped organize this panel because you're all working together, you're all partners. So I wanted to also give you a chance to talk about the partnership and how do you see the synergies between your projects before we go into the questions.
Totally. I've known Connie and GAIB forever. Actually, before he even started it, and he had been looking at Plume as well. And it's always been, because I think when we were talking about it back in the day, obviously, I think when you look at AI in general, it's obviously we're bullish crypto, and I like this area as well. But I think outside of that, it's very obvious that AI is the only other thing that matters in the world, right? And like you said, there's no way to actually get exposure to AI today at all, right? If you want to do anything, you have to buy NVIDIA. That's the best you can do. And NVIDIA is a messy way to express that idea, right? There's so many things tied up into it. You've got all kinds of other nonsense to think about. It could be way priced, underpriced. So you're getting a really messy and lossy way of trying to do that. And so by actually bringing these things on chain and making it easy to use, right? I think it's a huge thing, and it's increasingly, like you said, if you want to build anything great, the ideas are very simple. You just have to be in a market that's growing, right? And so all you have to do is make it very simple to access product through the stablecoin or through the dollar, right? And backed by these things. So I think it's an incredible thing. Same thing on the RedStone side, right? When we were building, I was talking to Marcin, the co-founder yesterday, about us working together. When we were doing all these things, turns out it's incredibly hard to get real world data on chain. And it's actually not even for one asset, like all the esoterics, even the stable stuff, to be honest, even like the very normal classical, it's like very hard to do to get the price. And without good pricing data, you can't do anything with it, right? You can't do DeFi, you can't do anything properly. So like be able to get these things on chain is a huge part of the business. And so for us, I think about RWAs is very simple. There's so many things tied up into it. We have to all work together to actually make something to bring this. If we're going to onboard, like crypto today is what, $4 trillion. We say all crypto's $4 trillion asset class today, right? We have thousands and hundreds of thousands of trillions of dollars assets off chain. There's no one person going to do that all, right? It's about having everyone tackle their piece and us all working together to make this on chain today. And so, we talk about this all the time, how, everyone in crypto has a huge ego, of course, and everybody wants to do everything themselves, right? And we're the same way. Don't get me wrong. I'm the number one. I'm the guiltiest of this. But the truth is, by working together on this, right, the idea is we should be able to come together and then really attack the real world in the right way and bring all that on chain on our terms versus us all trying to do a little piece of it. So I think that's the exciting thing about us all coming together and doing things. So thanks for organizing, for having us.
I'm going to go next month.
Yeah, I think, this ecosystem, when it comes to anything that's tokenized, this is still very much baby steps. We're just tapping those use cases when it comes to, for example, using the assets that have been tokenized in a productive way in DeFi, as, Plume is pioneering the work on that front. Because what's the meaning of putting an asset on chain if you can't do anything with it? And basically, the technology is all there. Some of the, I guess, limiting steps are mostly on the legal side of things. And there's also always this uncertainty or this feeling of not being too comfortable if you haven't done something in the past. And that's just how some of the big organizations feel currently. The big asset managers, the big sell-side banks in the US, in APAC, in Europe. They know what tokenization is. They know what this can bring. They know that the technology is already there, but they haven't done that really on production with real users' money in the past. And that's what makes them uncomfortable. But for us, people building this space, that means that there is a very, very thin barrier for us to break to actually make them comfortable. Because the moment somebody does it, like Apollo does it with their Acred fund, or like BlackRock does it with their Biddle fund, and a couple other big players that have the courage and the balls to do it first, then everybody else sees that this actually can be done, and there's nothing to worry about. So specifically, if you are, the head of digital assets for a big asset manager, you go to your board of directors and you say, guys, here's the collateral. An article saying that BlackRock did it, or Apollo did it, or VanEck did it. So there is nothing to, worry about. In fact, if we don't jump in right now, we might actually get screwed in the longer term because, our shareholders, they expect us to be on the forefront of that innovation, and this is already happening. Okay, so this is this kind of little inflection point that we see with tokenized assets right now. Putting them on chain, so the primary issuance is one side of things. It's important. It's the first step. But then making them productive, having leverage exposure to private credit, for example, with Apollo's funds using DeFi. So this type of leverage that does not exist in TradFi, that does not exist outside of the blockchain context. This is the new stuff that people really want to try. Obviously, it takes time. Obviously, it takes months to get the legal agreements, to get managers comfortable, but it's happening as we speak. And we start with the obvious stuff. We've started with T-bills, American T-bills as, a yield-bearing form of dollar, so money that everybody is comfortable with. We are doing private credit now, so one of the largest and fastest growing asset classes in the world. And then we are getting into more and more esoteric stuff. We are getting into GPUs as well. We are getting into anything that makes sense to be financialized. And that's just happening this year. That will be happening next year as well. So that really is something that makes us turbo excited about this whole space.
All right, yeah, and I definitely want to talk about the esoteric stuff with you guys. So, but before that, anything to add there about the
so the only thing I want to add is, these are good partners to all work with for a reason. Because to me, like crypto has a thing. The key ethos of crypto is creation of new market and then also creation of new assets. So by meaning of new assets, it's not only like, we're creating new type of asset class there, but we're getting these assets inaccessible to people before, now using crypto's rail to make it accessible to anybody. So the key goal why GAIB focus on AI infrastructure is that we all want to invest in AI, but why? How? There's no way for it. So that's why we want to create these asset class on chain by tokenizing it. And by tokenizing it, not only create a new asset class, but also allow people, different types of people to participate. Because right now, you can actually fragmentize all the things that you want. You can do a $10 investment, $100 investment, $1 investment, as much as you want. And on top of that, as what he was saying, we need to have the utilities. We need to have the markets to allow these assets being used for. Otherwise, it's useless paper. Think about gold. Gold back in the days, they're very hard to trade, highly illiquid. Then what comes afterwards? We financialize it. We have different types of instruments built on top of gold. We have notes. We have like ETF. We have like stocks trading against these stocks, these gold. And afterwards, you also need the gold. You also need these like different types of instruments to be available on different exchanges. Otherwise, it's just a user paper that you cannot really activate the value there. The same thing that we want to bring for these AI assets on-chain is by tokenizing it, then on top, we build everything in the DeFi ecosystem that crypto has been doing it for many years in the past. And we have successful use cases there. Like we can use these tokenized GPU asset in lending and borrowing. We can use them to handle protocols for yield extraction there. And we can also do options and futures on-chain. So a lot more things can be done for these asset class to exist and grow as like the economy. And the most important thing is that we need to work together is because to make all these different types of utilities available, you need everybody. You need a chain that can issue assets, for example, Plume, which with a dedicated liquidity providers and users to understand and would like and interested in these asset class. Otherwise, if you go to some other chains, like they may be gaming focused, they may be like in general focus, those audience would not be that dedicated or that interested in this specific asset class, and you're just wasting your time. But if going to an ecosystem that has the people, the users that understand the risk level and got interest in that, you kickstart your whole community, your flywheel really fast. And the second thing is, when we actually face like tokenization and bring real RWA on-chain, the main problem we always face is how do we know like these assets actually exist? How do I test it? How do we actually verify it? So oracles are needed for pricing to get it on. Of course, like at GAIB, we have our own like asset level attestation network where we after we tokenize these GPUs, we ask them GPUs to run a node and send the real-time data on-chain for verification. But other than that, pricing-wise, off-chain, like these agreements, these like different NAV values, audit reports, everything, you need to be feeded. They need to be fed on-chain through oracles, and that's why like RedStone and a couple others oracles are very good if they actually focus on these other base segments, because there's a gap in between off-chain and on-chain that we need to fill in.
Very well put. You said something that I think really summarizes everything that we're here to talk about. And you said AI is the only thing that matters in the world. And really, what was that? And RWAs feel like the only thing that matter in crypto because really, ever since the Ethereum white paper came out, like the whole goal, the main use case was like tokenize shit. And in one of the talks I've been doing in the events here, one thing I mentioned is like Bitcoin is just the expression of that. You not only store value, but tokenize it and make it transferable. And that's what allows you to have an economy. So we are just, I would say, at the breaking point of actually being able to tokenize more things, being able to transact more things, and having an economy that's level for everyone on all kinds of assets. So could be your shit coins, could be your tokenized durians, turtles, real world assets, credit, whatever you wanna tokenize. And you guys are obviously all in the arena and seeing these things happen. So when do you think, or how do you think it will look like when we hit escape velocity for all of these things?
Totally. I think it's still really early. I think to this point, like there's a lot of talk about it so far. And I'm part of it. I talk about it, but like the truth is, the actual amount of tokenized assets is still pretty small. And the actual amount of things being done here is still very, very trivial, right? The amount of money in this is very small, right? If you look at it today, what is it? $30 billion is the number we always talk about now, right? Well, we know half that is nonsense, right? Half that is private credits from Provenance, right, and Figure, which is fine, but it's not on chain. I mean, let's just be very clear about it. That's not real, right? So you take private credit, it goes down entirely. It's like almost not entirely not real, right? Outside of that, it's just T-bills, right? Then you have gold as the second category, and the gold stuff is kind of nonsense too, right? So like what you're really looking at is like it's largely nonsense, right? And so let's just say you're looking at probably $10 to $15 billion of T-bill value, right? Of which there's zero looping, there's zero borrowing, there's no DeFi. DeFi on T-bills is those are two opposite words. It doesn't make any sense, right? The borrow rate is 8%. right? The yield is 5%, right? And no matter what country you're in, 8 is bigger than 5, right? And so it just does not work. And so I need people to better understand it because everyone talks about RWA looping on T-bills. It's just a ridiculous comment, you know? So if you look at all these things have to get built, but we're still incredibly early in this stuff, right? Like it's just, it's hard to express, like we're not even phase 0. But, and I think it's fine. I don't actually think we're behind or anything like that. I think it's actually a good thing. This is where we should be. The stablecoin today, everyone thinks it's like the great thing that's happening. People forget that it's taken over 10 years for stablecoin to get here, right? And there are so many dead bodies on the road to get to this point, right? So the stablecoin itself is a whole thing, right? Now, and only after this, now stablecoin also was designed initially for the crypto native market, right? Stablecoin was designed to move money in and around exchanges because exchanges are tough to work with, on off ramps are bad, right? You need, and because exchanges are dangerous, you had to like move around. So that's where Tether was created. It was created to solve a crypto native problem, right? And that's where it started. Now, 10 years later, now we're talking about CBDC. Now we're talking about cross-border payments and remittance and all this kind of stuff, which is great. And I think again, it's a good thing. But you know, for us right now, I think we need to, the fear that I have with everything that we're doing, right, is that we're, you know, it's the classic Gartner hype cycle curve, right? We're sort of in the peak of overinflated expectations right now. I think all these, everything that we're talking about, and again, I'm part of the problem, but all the things that we talk about, all the institutions, the expectations are far too high for what they're actually getting out of it, right? If you look at BUIDL today, there hasn't been actually much growth recently, right? Because out of what they actually do, right, BUIDL has what, I think it's, I forget, you saw the talk last night. I think it's 90 holders, right? So BUIDL has 90 holders, right? Which we know is like, you know, 15, right? And so if you look at that, that's $2.5 billion in value. It has not really grown because there's no more money to get out of the foundations. That's it, right? And so $2 billion to Larry Fink, who has 12 trillion, right, is nothing. He doesn't care. And they make tiny, tiny bips on the 2 billion,
Yep.
right? And so that is not a success story, right? And that's our success story, great. But that's not a success story for Larry Fink and TradFi. Right? And so I worry that over time, right, with all this talk of what's happening, when things go sideways, they'll go sideways in a very bad way, right? And they'll start to forget and turn on us in a different way, right? I don't think that's the case, right? But I think we're currently in a fine zone. But like if we continue to track down this road and sort of, you know, constantly promise this nonsense, it's going to go that way, you know? And so that's the thing I think we need to just, you know, take stock of it. In crypto, we love to like talk a big story and get really excited, which is great. But we just can't. We shouldn't look too ahead of ourselves before we convince everyone else that this is a thing, and they begin to think that something's going to happen when it's not. You know, so we just need to march down the path that we're going on today. In 10 years, I mean, like I'm supposed to leave tomorrow. I haven't booked my flight, so I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. But like 10 years later, right? Like I think it's actually very simple. What we're all doing today is not creating a new market, in my opinion. What we're doing today is bringing an existing market that we want, right? That people are already doing on chain. People already want to make money in crypto, whether it's BTC memes or whatever, right? And flow it back to the other side into real things. And they want to buy data centers. Like, what do you do when you have money, right? You start to buy real things, you know? And so we're just making that much, much easier in one place. And I think from there, just like Coney said, right? Like once you have these assets here, these become built. Once you turn everything in the world, right, into software, into tokens, right? Now you can build all kinds of new tools around it that are going to create new things we've never imagined, right? Through novel data, right? We can create synthetic products that don't even exist, but are just 10 different data points together, right? That come together to create a new product that is a representation in a much more direct way. So I think that to me is the most exciting thing. Actually, tokenization for the most part is slow, boring, and sucks.
Yeah.
Truthfully,
Exactly.
You know?
Tokenization is just one smart contract.
Yes, exactly. It's actually a pain in the ass and it sucks, you know? And like you do all this work and what you get one T-bill fund.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
It's ridiculous, you know? But like that's just the work that has to be done. It's unavoidable. But once you get on top of there, and we're not close yet, but once we get there, then the fun stuff starts to happen, and then we can really pick up. So I think we're going to go through this right now. People are going to realize, you know, we're kind of out of money. You know, there's really not much more happening here, and it's going to dump a little bit, right? And everyone's going to kind of, you know, come to a little bit light, and then from there the real work can begin, because then you'll actually have a solid base of assets that you can actually get to do things from. We've hit the limit on T-bills. This is it. You know, now the only thing we can do now is get more T-bills from different countries. You know, which is a thing too. It's not bad, but new products, new things. That's what matters, right? Copying something from one place and putting it to another does not make anything better. It actually, like 99% of tokenization actually is worse, right, than what it normally is, right? Like you take, again, a 5% product, you put it on chain, it becomes 4%, right? Because you have middlemen taking all the fees. Now you have smart contract risk, right? Now you lose insurance, you lose all the things you get. So it's worse in every way possible. So you have to do, like, I think that's why access is important. That's why they have pieces, like you can't get it. That's why it is better to put it on chain, right? That's why by combining new things you can make it. So to me, that's kind of where we are, and that's the risk of where we're heading right now. So the future, I think it's it's positive, right? I couldn't be more bullish. I think it's going to be insane. Like, I think even I, as bullish as I am, like, I always forget how insane it's going to get. You know, we literally have, they're changing the laws around every country in the world
Yes.
to make
To
this
make
happen.
this possible.
And
Yes.
I think people don't really internalize when that happens, the amount of money flowing in is going to be fucking astronomical, you know, and that's going to create a lot of new things, and that's going to be incredible leverage and power, right? So that's going to be crazy. So that's all very bullish, but we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Just because, like, we spent a lot of time in DC, HKMA and ADDM, and we spent time with the Korean Congress as well, right? This morning, and like when we talked to them, you realize like we're still 2-3 years out, easily, you know, from something material happening here. So that's talking about taking the stablecoin and
Exactly.
deploying here. And the stablecoin is the most straightforward, the easiest product in the world to
Easiest,
tokenize,
yeah.
right? So like, just to put that into perspective, we're 5-10 years away easily. But look, the beautiful thing about this is the only market that's going to matter in the future, right? And so this is going to be a 20-year journey for everything, but it's actually going to change how the entire world works together. So it's going to be incredibly exciting, but that's kind of where we're heading.
Fucking great. But I think that's a lot of what happens in crypto all the time. Like, you take one concept and then you replicate it endlessly because
Yes.
a lot of people are not very original in their thinking. And then you have what you say, like, maybe the first guy to do it was fucking great at it, but then the next one is a bit more, everything is a bit more stringy, so things start breaking, and
Yep,
then
yep.
you start getting
Bubble
food
burst.
from the
Yes.
industry, and then like it looks bad to the outside world, but eventually, like, people forget, like, just 2 years ago, lending markets were breaking left and right.
Yeah, yeah.
And you haven't heard one of those incidents anymore. And thanks to a great degree to people that are building oracles, to the fact that these things are not exploitable anymore. But we're getting there. And like you said, there's going to be a lot of replication. There's going to be bumps along the road, but there's going to be a lot more happening
Yeah,
positively to build up to a point where
Totally.
300 trillion, 400
Yeah.
trillion common chain.
Yes.
You guys want to comment anything on this
No, I
on
wanna-
scalability?
Yeah, I want to echo on what Chris has been saying, right? So we do have we do see a lot of interest in terms of RWA everything, tokenizing everything. Like, you know, there's like a shipment company come and say, hey, can I tokenize my cargoes? Can I tokenize my ships? Can I tokenize like trade finance? And then the other people come and say, hey, I have like these unsecured lending, making 30-40% yield, an SCA, like 200 mil of fund, can we tokenize it? A lot of people come to us afterwards after they know what we do with these assets. I mean, always there's a question to ask them is, think about why you're tokenizing this. Are you want to get more liquidity, or are you going to get more like users, or are you just want to have a wrapper, or just ready for the future, right? Because tokenizing is just one step. It's like one smart contract and done. But if you actually tokenize something that nobody wants to buy, nobody wants to use, it's just going to be a coin without any liquidity. There's nothing going to be worth for, right? So that's why when we actually focus on these AI infrastructure is because like people want it. People want to buy it. People want access to it. That's why we give them access. That's the core value that we want to bring to the table here. And then most important thing is, as you also mentioned, right? Many people at the government level are still looking at stablecoin because the U.S. government has done it, and they just not copy and paste, innovate a bit on that to fit into localize it and fit into localize it into their countries, like to adopt it, right? But other than that, like what are we going to bring on chain? Like other than T-bills, can you bring more demandable assets classes onto on chain so people can get real yield, can get real assets? Because when you have so much capital sit in the crypto, ultimately they need to park it somewhere. Either trade some tokenized stocks, or either like buy some private credit funds, or can we actually have other assets that's more interesting for them to get into with the tokenization, these so creative route that we have never seen before, right? For example, if I want to do a loan, like do a loan with you, do a barter with you, right? It's just like, it's hard. It's like so illiquid. But with token, you can do anything. Of course, underneath, when the bubble bursts, we'll see like who's naked on who's naked on the beach, right?
Yes.
But then, like, the good thing is we're working with the best partners. We adopt the highest like standard approach, such that we follow things when shit hits the fan, we're still here. And ultimately, market the hidden force will drive whatever assets get being bought on chain. T-bills, now of course, like I think people do have an angle for it for now. But then afterwards, what's next? Like that's the question we need to ask when you think about tokenization here. So of course we go there. Managing expectation, bubble gonna burst sometime, but then we'll think get started. It happens to the Excel 10 years ago. It happens to the Google glasses 10 years ago, right? When we had as you mentioned, doing the Excel thing 10 years ago, when Google Cardboard just came out, people were very excited about these like metaverse. We had a metaverse hype in 2020. Afterwards, now in 2024, 2025, we still haven't really got into the metaverse yet. So the same thing, same routine and cycle will happen to RWA. We're seeing it. It's a good trend. Innovations will come, but let's do something more meaningful in between.
Right on. Anything to add, Matt?
It's always, I think, this pattern that you see with a technological breakthrough happening in this space, and then you've got this Cambrian explosion of copycats, basically. And that's just because, the cost of capital in this industry is just probably the lowest of all industries. I'm talking about VC capital. So if you have an idea, then there's always somebody willing to give you $10 million to do this. And you can run on that 10 million for a couple of years. You can have a token, and sometimes you can run your company into perpetuity without even having any form of revenue. And that's fine, because the benefit of that is that if you really...
People are employed.
I mean, that's one part of it. So the market is not perfectly efficient. But if you have, a good idea that needs a lot of money to be actually, be forced into existence, it's the easiest industry to do that with. You really have the capital to be deployed here. And people talk a lot of shit about like, oh, it's hard to raise from VCs in this cycle or whatever. Yeah, try do a SaaS business outside of Web3 and then raise money. It's like impossible now, almost, right? Unless you're building something AI, and it's still like it's still the cost of capital is higher. You have to show more fundamentals most of the times than you have to do it here. And
PMF.
To me, this is, yes, you kind of look at some of those companies and you say like, but what do they do? Why did they raise that money, and what's the purpose? And that's going to be a part of it. But there's going to be a couple of key players that actually survive a couple of those cycles and emerge as the leaders in the new categories. Also VC funded, and that is going to be pushing the whole industry forward. So I definitely expect this kind of a Cambrian explosion. That's actually already happening with the T-bill products and like copycats, and or very, very similar products just coming from different players trying to jump in onto the bandwagon. And there's probably going to be a little of a cool down effect, maybe next year, maybe the following year, which is to be expected. But there are going to be a couple of players that the capital is going to be concentrated around, just like it happened with lending markets, for example. You've got your Aave, your Morpho, your Euler coming back as well. And you have 1,000 dead companies that tried to do the same thing. But then once the formula is found for example, how a lending protocol should be built, then we kind of move forward when it comes to developing the whole thing. Then we make the big money comfortable with that kind of infrastructure as well. And the same thing will happen to tokenization platforms. The same thing will happen to any form of representing what we like to call real world assets on chain. That is definitely to be expected, but I think that's just how it has to happen.
Yeah, I would just echo one quick point that Matt was saying. Like, copycats would happen when the market is new, nascent, and it's a blue ocean. And also, it's sort of like feather days where you're going forward. Because if nobody copies you, either you're doing something really niche, very high entry barrier that nobody can copy you, otherwise they will copy for any way, any means you do. For example, when we first came out to talk about
Can I interrupt you there? Just as a side note, and particularly in crypto, where like the cost of copycatting you, a lot of times it's just like slapping a word next to a tagline. It's not even developing anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So for example, when we first came out, talk about GPU tokenization, right? And also like AI-backed stablecoin. Like people, first they don't understand. We educated the market for 6 months. Then they started to realize, oh damn, this is a huge market, the new asset class. Then people started to copy, people started to do. But how many people actually realize it? How many people actually launch it? Well, not many. We're the first to launch the first like Web3 tokenized GPU product. We're the first to launch like AI-backed stablecoin from the yield from actual asset we deployed, have real transparency dashboard online already done. So what I'm saying here is like as echoing back to what Chris is saying, right? So expectation was always very high when the hype is here. But then when the bubble bursted, like who's actually deploying, who's actually working, are the ones that stay. And yeah, we're gonna go through that cycle again and again and again. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think it's a good thing to have the cycles, to be honest, right? I mean, it means it's even worth having the cycle over, right?
Correct.
Because that's how everything works, right?
You weed out a lot of bad players.
Yeah, well, because
Yes.
look, like if there's no cycle, it means no one even cares. You know,
Exactly.
it never got big enough to become a bubble. You know, so I think,
Yeah.
and that's been historically RWAs. We never even remotely had a cycle, right? It was just we talk about it. It was a couple words on Twitter and it disappeared. Now there's actually a possibility it will blow up in a bad way. So we should be glad that that's the case, right? And also the truth is, who cares? At the end of the day, right? Like, I mean, just 2 days ago, SBF is tweeting again. You know, like we forget everything so quickly. The scammers from the last cycle run the same scam this time, and it still works. And it surprised me every time. You know, and so like, you know, if we're doing real things, it's going to be totally fine. You know, it's
Correct.
not like the amount of blow up is an incredibly different story, right? It's more of an expectation management versus a fundamental blow up type thing, right? And then two, again, that it allows us to concentrate, right? You expand, you concentrate into a few people, and it continues to go this way, just like you guys all said. So I think we should be incredibly grateful we have the opportunity to go down that road, you know?
Exactly.
And if something blows up, God bless, we know we'll all consolidate on the rest and we'll keep going, you know?
Yeah, and actually, you all three said something, and pretty much everyone that has sat on this table over the last week has said the same thing. Like, tokenization is the boring part. Tokenization is like, yes, you might have like the legal setup, but for the most part, it's just like a smart contract, and then you're done. Now let's go into the fun stuff. What happens after the tokenization? What should we be excited about? If possible, from the angle of applications, from the angle of permissionless things that anyone in the world can use, which is like the ultimate vision, right? Because I feel like right now in RWAs, there's a big perception. I know this not to be true, but there's a big perception that it's like, oh, mega corps and mega funds are taking over the crypto industry.
Agreed.
And
I think it's partially true, you know.
It is
Even if you
true.
look at, I was just talking to something. Even if you look at this event, last year KBW was like nonstop partying,
Exactly.
right? And this year, we're at the congressional building. I'm wearing a fucking suit for fuck's sake, you know, and the parties have sucked this year, you know, for the most part. And it's not because it's because like the tone is different now, you know. So it for sure is happening to some degree, even if they're not co-opting us directly. Like, it's definitely taking something out of the air, you know. But I think it's fine. I think again, it's part of the cycle. I think it's a good thing, right? The minute memes start ripping again, I guess we're gonna have a bunch of fun stuff, right? So what, like, I think you see, like, where are we going now, and like, you know. What are the interesting things that you can be doing, right? The truth is, it's still incredibly like boring. It's still like not. There's like interesting things. Is like, look, nobody here wants to talk about T-bills, right? Like, if I have to talk about T-bills again, I'll kill myself. You know, like, it's just like.
People only talk about T-bills to shit on T-bills.
Exactly. That's the only thing worth talking about T-bills, about how fucking stupid and boring they are. You know, it's important though. Like, it's all like it's real. It's a thing. You know, I don't know. Let's put it this way. I think. There are two things. There are fundamental things we have to do now, and it's just going to take time. You know, at the same time, we can do fun stuff that's lighter, more interesting. That's like cards on Sol recently, right? That's a more like interesting and light example of stuff. I think I personally like. I'm a big fan of GPU stuff. So I think tokenized API and GPUs is a huge thing, right? I do think like if you look at Plume today, we have a bunch of applications. You can do all kinds of random stuff, right? You can buy durian farms, right, permissionlessly, right? So like if you are mega bullish durians, right, and maybe you should be, to be honest, because I didn't know this, but durians are pretty profitable, you know, and they don't really,
profitable.
Yeah, they're actually an incredibly
I've
profitable
never
business.
heard of this until your talk yesterday. Like,
Yeah, it's actually highly profitable stuff. So you could take some durians and like ape into them, right? And then we have a small market for durians, not a big one, but you could do a little bit of looping on durians, you know. And so like, so you could do some durian loops, you know. But that's the kind of stuff that we have.
Speaking of that durian farm, I actually had the idea for tokenizing that 4 years ago.
Is that right?
But at that time, the infrastructure hype and sentiment was not there. They're like,
totally.
What are you doing with durian NFT? Are you gonna have that for like being mailed to you for 4 durians and you're holding an NFT holder? But now people make sense, right? Because their assets, like, I think the key here is after tokenizing it, what happens afterwards is right now you actually can have a market that for any assets that traditional cannot be. For instance, imagine you can have a GPU being tokenized, you hold it, and then now you need some cash. You go to lending protocols, hey, I want to get some USDT to pay my bill, but without selling the asset itself, right? Meaning tokenization is here only as an infrastructure that can turn any assets into any market and that type of asset that can unleash basically just like internet abstraction or wallet abstraction. Get all the assets in one wallet. You can spend anything you want with a DeFi rail. I think that's the most important part for everybody here because I'm a DeFi. I'm a crypto maxi. I don't even hold stocks anymore.
I don't either, yeah.
Right, we don't hold stocks anymore. But if we, for some reason, want to have some exposure to it, what can we do? maybe we get some tokenized stock on chain, right? That can still be part of our asset. But
I think Tokenized is the biggest forced narrative this cycle. But anyway, keep going.
right. And then afterwards, like when these stock being tokenized, you hold it. What do you want to do? You want to get some cash to pay your bill, your fixed bill. If the stock is going down, you can't really sell it. You don't want to sell it. Then you can go to lending protocol, get some cash for immediate cash there, just to pay your bills, right? It means that all the tokenized assets just be aggregated in the same bucket of your portfolio. Now you can unleash their values as much as you want. That's something what interests me. Like imagine that you're turning everything that can be useful, that can be tradable on chain. So that's the special thing about crypto and tokenization here.
Great. Matt, want to add anything there?
I mean, crypto is the first truly global market for everything, right? So exactly, echoing that point, it's the de facto the cross-margin account for everything you can imagine, as long as we can put that on-chain. And this naturally just goes on-chain. It's just that the most financial use cases are the most visible because they are the easiest to quantify when it comes to the financial gain that you can have with them. Just the fact that you don't have to exit a yield-bearing position to send $1 billion to a subsidiary in Philippines if you are based out of the US and lose a bunch of yield on top of that. It kind of speaks to people's imagination because it's super quantifiable. But then again, this is like the global market, and everything goes into the area of globalization. It's the pop culture, it's everything else. So why not the financial markets, and why not markets in general? Okay, there's just still a lot of people in the world that just don't understand that, because a lot of first principles thinking is actually required to understand this. Especially if you look at something like the Bitcoin white paper, just the amount of first principles thinking that kind of went into writing this. Meaning you read this once, you kind of understand this, you read this like 12 months ago, and you kind of get the deeper understanding. And then shit happens, in the world, currencies go up and down, countries go broke, and then you understand it more and more and more, and you kind of unwrap it. This is a tremendously powerful concept, but blockchain in general and this kind of global market is kind of like this as well. The more history we can actually, benchmark this against, the more, real-time modern history you can benchmark this against, the more real use cases that people have, just like, try get a loan in Argentina from a local bank. With like 60%, interest on top of that. And then it turns out you can actually take a loan from a fund in Dubai for like 3% on this global market. And there's just many, many stories like this that kind of pile up. And then, the general public starts to understand that concept as well. So we are still not there. It's just like, just a bunch of geeks, us, right? We kind of understand that concept more and more because we think about this every day. But the moment it kind of becomes a consensus knowledge, and it will become a consensus knowledge, that's where the fun starts.
Yeah, it already is the same. It's always the same thing, right? Any technology change is two things. It's either new technology that's significantly better than the old thing, or it's population change. Right, basic people that still use BlackBerries are going to die, right? And people that and then people that are grew up on the internet and started trading shitters when they were kids, right? Like they're going to, and it's already happening in front of you, right? If you look at any of the kids interact, they don't fucking care about equities, okay? They're trading shitters, right? They're trying to gamble on Twitch, they're following the streamers, right? And so you can see that, but it just takes time, right? When the internet came out, it was like, it's going to disintermediate everything, right? And that was nonsense at the beginning, but it's true now. But it literally just takes 10 years. That's how this thing happens, right? And so this has been around for 10 years now. When everyone goes away, they're going to get rid of this. When the new generation comes in and they're in a financial, you basically have to wait till that new market becomes at a age in which they begin to become the dominant financial population in the world, right? Once that happens, so I mean, it's basically post-college, right, for those people, usually, but that's also becoming earlier and earlier, right? If you look today, right, Speed, Kai, a bunch of these folks, they probably control most of the money at that point now, so it's getting earlier and earlier. So you can maybe say the teenage years for these folks now, they will begin to control the financial means of the world, and then that will really start to change everything in a rapid way. So that's kind of like where it's going to go. And so you have to think about, what does that population want? Right, and what are the things they so shitters are one. Yeah, exactly. Shitters for one, right? I think it's very clear, right? Like, look, tokenized assets are great, right? And they're important, and it's actually it's going to change a tremendous amount of stuff in ways that it's hard to articulate clearly. But the shorter term stuff, while we do that, is the more topical stuff. You have to do enough to keep the market going, right? At the same time, right? And that's what's happening right now. That's why prediction markets have taken everything, right? Because it's a pithy story, even though the volumes of prediction markets are still pretty shit, right? Comparatively speaking, So you need to do this pithier stuff. You need to keep people interested in the loop and the cycle, while the more fundamental stuff happens. Arguably, the last big onboarding cycle in crypto was something called UST, right? And so, that brought into a tremendous amount of money into this thing because it was a 20% APY. That was a meme, right?
Yeah.
And so, these are the things that we still need those. We need a simple, clear stories. And so, this idea in crypto, we always jump to this thing. Let's onboard the next billion users. Let's onboard 1 million users. Forget 1 billion, right? Everyone who's looked at any of the stats knows it's 800,000 wallets that are actually active or something like that, right? So let's forget 1 billion
everyone's
users.
get a couple, so it's
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's nonsense,
the number of
right?
people smaller.
So it's a couple 100 million wallets. It's really just a couple 100,000 people, right? So forget 1 billion users. So forget tokenize the whole world. Let's tokenize one thing for fuck's sake and just make it work, And so I think we're still getting there, but you can see where it's going. So while we're doing that work, let's engage the audience at the same time and engage the people that are going to matter here, which are the kids, and the people that are actually using this stuff. Which is if you look at equities, right? The last time equities actually changed, right, was when someone bid a bat in Wuhan, right? And we all had to go home, right, and sit there and trade shitters all day on Robinhood, right? And what happened at that point was that kids started to gamble on AMC and GME in an insane way, right? And that allowed retail to actually come in, right, into a new way, and that was the birth of all these memes in general, right? You had meme stocks, and then that blew out Melvin Capital, right? So it was the first time you had new entrants come into the game and actually treat it as a game. And ever since then, it's Wall Street bets, it's shitters. So that's what's happened. So the same thing is happening right now in crypto, right? Because you have, like you said, the first real global market. We can get people all over the world to just buy a bunch of random shit and pump things to fucking $100 trillion, And that's what changes things. So we need to keep that cycle going while we do the fundamentals, and it will meet in the middle at some point.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at what the Web2 traditional finance guys, the Wall Street guys, and also the Web3, how we get emerged now, you're like, are they embracing us or are we embracing them, right? These guys are tokenizing TPUs, putting them on chain. They all see the market. They're missing. They're gonna miss for the next 10 years, 20 years of the young people coming up. So we should think of adopting blockchain. But 2 years ago, when they adopt a blockchain, they're all using these private chains. Now they're like, are they working? Maybe not. Let's move on to some public chains there.
Exactly. And the private chains rebrand to public chains
exactly,
now,
right? So it's the same thing. Meaning they're playing their own game doesn't really have any benefits to them. So they need to fit into what we want and what the blockchain want, which is a global market. As I truly like that wording here. It's a global market, global asset class, global population. So we're not constrained by any sort of regulatory requirements here. We do have regulations, localized. But other than that, this is a global liquidity pool. There's a lot more interesting things can be done here. So I do believe that's what the last generation of mobile internet and the SaaS era happened. It was because of a new group of young guys like us come up and we got used to it. The next generation who's using blockchain as native as possible would definitely change a lot of things. How they interact, how they trade, how they talk to people. Yeah, we're in that era pretty much soon.
100%. I mean, dude, just like you said, you don't hold equities.
Yeah.
I don't hold any equities either anymore.
Exactly.
I don't hold equities either. What's the point? Why would I care about holding equities?
Exactly.
If anything, I'm holding BTC. I'll hold. That's to me. That's that's the S&P to me. I'll hold BTC.
Or SPX 66.
Yeah, that's SPX. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly. Or
we're getting deep
or
on the lore
Farcoin.
here.
Farcoin is the actual blue shit. That's what I hold. That's why. So anyway, so those are the things, and this is for people that are sort of in between. We still understand the real world, right, and grew up in that and still have this. And so if you grew up completely native to this, I guarantee you talk to anyone under the age of 15, right? You can send them stables. They don't care about Venmo or any of this nonsense. So they're just dude, I'll take stables, no question. We'll do it hard. Oh, they'll take memes, they'll take anything, right? So that's where the emerging behavior is happening, and that's all the exciting shit is coming. And that's going to take over the entire fucking world. And that's going to be very cool.
Absolutely. And then when you have this new generation, they're not even going to be interacting with their phones the way the people we consider kids right now interact with their phones because it's all going to go through AI.
That's right. Exactly. And AI is a massively disruptive thing.
Yeah.
Also, like it's gonna fuck. I think that's the one thing that's like I think I can see pretty clearly on most things. AI actually have no idea where it's going. Like meaning like it's going to fuck so many things up. It's kind of hard to articulate like, how to position yourself properly. But it's gonna be nuts.
Even with stuff like the span of attention, I feel like I'm incapable of googling shit right now
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Like I just got through GPT. Like it's,
No, and if it's true, it's not fuck. It's fine. It's close enough. Don't even care anymore. You know. Like,
exactly. Yeah, if it's like
Not that-
ballpark and takes
That's
1/10 the time, then yeah,
exactly. I
I'm
don't
all
even
up for
care.
it.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Who cares
But
anymore?
that's helpful though. That's helpful though. Like that's a kid like teaching my auntie doing like, hey, you know, if you want to go to this, because my auntie is having a meeting with some random guy that he doesn't know, and then the kid will say, hey, why don't you like?
We can do a podcast about this story.
ChatGPT, get some topics that you want to discuss, like get some background of this guy, and then it works. They're like, oh damn, I should have known like used ChatGPT for so long. Like this is their daily routine. Like this is a 10 years old, 20 years old daily routine. Even us, daily routine right now. Imagine like AI is here, blockchain is here as daily routine as it was. Like to us, it's going to change a lot of things.
For sure. And look, even to us, we're boomers because we're all talking about fucking ChatGPT as if it's like a search engine, right? Like if you talk to anyone actually that's like 10 years old or younger, it's their first friend. That's what it really is.
Yeah.
It's their first friend. It's the repository for everything they've ever done. It's a knowledge of everything. It's a journal. It's everything. The search is like the least interesting part of it all, right? And
Exactly.
so
Yeah, you're right. That's really boomerish of us.
No, that's how I do it too. That's how I do it too. You know,
You're
like,
at another level.
exactly. So like that's just gonna be absolutely nuts when that like when then a machine is like that much context on you, then it's gonna be, and then that becomes your dominant relationship. Right, because right now we're still people first, right, and maybe those people are behind the machine now, right, and it's an avatar, and so like, but it's still people first.
Yeah,
it's going to flip to being machine first, and that's going to be absolutely nutty.
Yeah, and interaction. Like we're going to change from using GUI to agentic UI pretty much soon. Like when Apple Intelligence is getting more like smarter, we don't even need to type. Like just talk to them. They can translate everything, record everything. Like
Yeah.
Right. We don't need to type. We don't have apps. What's an app? An app is basically a user interface for you to interact with.
An API usually. Yeah.
API usually, right? You don't need that. Just one AI that can do everything for you. And imagine like crypto is behind it. A lot can be unfold.
100%. And the machines, if that's like eventually it's gonna be machines talking machines, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And the machine is not gonna try and fucking go into the Chase app and do all. They're just gonna use crypto to send money around, right?
Exactly.
That's the obvious future.
And it
you know?
might be even like we have an integrator, like someone that's building stuff using our technology, that basically be like a chatbot that trades for you. So you just tell it like, I want to make X profit on whatever's hot on these cheaters or RWA, whatever narrative you want to fit it, and it sort of does it for you. Might not bat 100%, but it's getting there.
100%.
So you're not even like looking at analyzing the market yourself.
100%. I agree with that. So.
Yeah.
Before I have to bring in the next guest, guys, just wanted to ask you quickly, like if we can do a quick round. What do you think is most interesting that's to bring on chain right now? What do you think is the let's forget about practical and about following the roadmap. Like, what do you think would be like? You're like, yeah, this would be dope if it comes on chain already. And it can even be from the point of view of like data that you think should get on chain to feed the decentralized economy and all that. So if you want to start.
Sure. I think from a consumer perspective, this has been touched upon in like 2021 and later with like Axie Infinity and stuff like this. But I was always a gamer growing up. I used to play a lot of like Counter-Strike, and they introduced in 2012, that was when CSGO came out, and they introduced the concept of skins on weapons. And me and friends, you know, we used to kind of gamble on those, at those like black market ish.
Yeah, you're born
marketplaces. Yeah. And then Valve just banned all of that shit, and that was pretty depressing for me back then. But I kind of, you know, got the feeling of what it means to digitally own something, which means I have the control over it. I can send it. I can make money on it. I can sell it. I can use it as, you know, a status symbol within a world that is not real world. That is actually virtual. That is created by somebody. And now the NFTs boom happened, and I got the same kind of a feeling of, hey, actually this is it's no different to an object that you can hold in your hand. Okay. It really isn't, because you know you have a fancy car. It's a status symbol. You can't really do much with it outside of just like moving around. It doesn't really help you that much in your life. So it's not really that different from a digital object that you can also display, that you can also earn respect from people or maybe even make business with them using that item. So the digital world kind of merges with the physical, world. So, people have done it, some of the, I guess, skins or items in games, but I really...
We have a CSGO marketplace coming.
I really am excited about kind of these two words merging together and people treating digital objects the same way they treat like physical objects. We're probably still a couple of years away from it, but you look where the kids are going, right? The Fortnite skins, everything. They understand this concept very deeply. They understand that the physical object is pretty much the same as a digital object. And you can sell it, you can have it, you can give it to somebody, you can make money on it. And this just creates a new economy, okay? So I am professionally the most excited about all the financial stuff that's coming, all the new asset classes, the reinsurance, the refactoring, like everything that's coming to on-chain. It's a new form of yield. It's kind of a new exciting use case. But yeah, as a consumer of things, I would love to get back to some gaming and I would love to kind of own some of the shit that I can win in games as well.
All right, great answer. Quick round, guys. We have our next guest waiting.
No
here
worries.
already.
I'll keep it quick as much as I can. I think the most interesting rewards that's tokenized are not tied to anything real, right? I mean, maybe to go down that path. Like I think the idea that has to be backed by something, I think, is also not a thing, right? If you look at again, I would talk about this, but like the number one stablecoin in the world, we don't know if anything's backing it, and it's fine. Just the idea that it's $1 is enough, And so, like, I think that the interesting thing is, like, if you look at prediction markets as an analogy, right? Prediction markets are a way for you to express an idea about some kind of consumer thing. Usually, it means like, is it going up or down, right? Like, that's the idea, but it's still too hard to express for most people, right? Like, I want to be able to say, look, like, maybe you're like bullish, I don't know, Sabrina Carpenter or something, right? You should just be able to not have to constrain it to a single event, which is like, oh, what's the next song on this? I think it's one way to do it. You should just be able to like long Sabrina Carpenter, right? Or if you want, really bearish on whoever else, you should be able to do it. So I think, like, to me, the idea is that, and what I say is, I don't think you have to like bring her contracts on chain or whatever. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. You could just take a collection of a bunch of data about her and then put that on chain, right? Maybe Spotify streams, maybe it's like YouTube views, maybe it's sentiment, all these kind of things, put it into one thing. And so like that thing can be anything, right? So you should be able to long for, like I always said this, we still have this protocol being built, and it turns out it's a little bit harder than I initially expected, but like you should be able to long and short Chinese food as an example. It's like, look, I used to think this, like, I think, okay, I remember this, sort of like the food truck thing. It was always like the new thing, which is basically like you just take any culture, right, and you basically wrap it in a burrito. That's like what this is. And so we did like Mexican food, then we did Thai food, then we did Vietnamese food. It's like all things. Okay, it was like very clear at some point we'll just do Chinese food. So like you should have been like Lev Long, like noodles at that point or something like that, right? So like, there are like things like that. You don't have to back it by anything. It should just be the idea that you can just take. It's a way to express an idea about the world, right? Using a bunch of things around cryptography to make it work. So I think that to me is like the most exciting thing, because again, it's a net new area that no one's doing yet right now, right? And that's how you get new people into the space as well.
Cody?
Yeah, I'm more futuristic. So I always think of an economy where we live with robots, with AI, with like all these hidden hands behind, companions behind. So if we can actually get like these robots, for example, robot taxi running around making money in a road, like nobody's driving the car, then self-driving cars are making money for you, and we can tokenize it. We can be a part of that, investing in all these like economy. Then that'd be great. Because I always wanted to be the early guy when Visa was not a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Visa is now like basically whenever you transact anything using a Visa card, they make a buck. If the same thing can happen to, let's say, AI infrastructure, like all these robots, all these like robot taxis or humanoids, whatever they call them, whenever they get deployed massively in the future, we can be there early. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Getting this one short, but if you're watched thus far, please like this video and subscribe to our podcast. We'll keep bringing on great guests. And yeah, this was probably the most fun podcast we did so far. So thank you so much.
Shout out Particle, and thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.